Greetings. Hi, I'm Dr. Walter Jacobson, a board-certified psychiatrist, spiritual psychotherapist, and mastery of life mentor. I was asked to talk a little bit about personality disorders. Okay, so basically, personality disorders are disorders that develop in sort of early adolescence, young adulthood, and basically there's sort of templates there that people sort of get their personalities get formed. Uh, Actually, it starts at a lot earlier age, but it becomes more particularly obvious in adolescence and in early adulthood when you actually see the characteristics come out in full flavor, so to speak. But personality disorders are not normal. Okay, they're pathology. They're people who have their emotional or mental problems, and but there's the broad overview. I think there are like it may have changed because the psychiatrists are always changing the diagnostics DSM, the Diagnostical Statistical Manual of diagnoses. They're oftentimes changing things, but I think there still are like 9 personality disorders in different categories or classes, but they all have certain things in common. And the most common are there are basically 4 things that all of them have in common. There is unstable affect, which means mood swings, unstable sense of self-esteem. So sometimes you feel good about yourself, sometimes you feel bad about yourself. Unstable impulse control. So people just do very impulsive, reckless things. And unstable relationships. People have a tremendous difficulty in relationships. And that's mainly because their worldview is so skewed that it's very difficult it makes communication very difficult. It makes living with someone very difficult because these people are very difficult, or they can be. Now, I should tell you that we all have certain features or aspects of the different personality disorders. So we all have some flavor of them to some degree. We have little behaviors here and there, little things that meet some of the criteria, but and many people have mixed personality disorders also. They have components of different ones. But even though you are not, and I may have some behaviors that can be seen in certain personality disorders, that does not make us having personality disorders. We all have certain features and aspects, but that does not peg the diagnosis. You have to meet the criteria. So there's those 4 general criteria, and then there are specific personality types. I think they call them clusters. There are 3 clusters of 4, I think, and quickly there's a cluster of sort of paranoid or persecutory or paranoid personality disorder. There's schizotypal and what's the other one? I'm forgetting it now. And schizoid. So these are people who are really skewed. I mean, they're not blatantly psychotic, but they've got their thinking is way off and really in the ozone sometimes, and reality testing does not enter into play. So these are some extreme personality disorders: the paranoid, persecutory, the schizotypal has a lot of magical thinking and flamboyance, and the schizoid is really disconnected from people. And then there's and then the other cluster, there's another cluster that I think has to do with obsessive compulsive personality features. People who are not obsessive compulsive disorder, but have certain features of orderliness, and things have to be in the proper place, and they have to be very organized, and they got to do things a certain way, very structured and rigid kind of thinking. And then there's also, I think, I forget now because it doesn't come up very often. There may be a passive aggressive or personality disorder, or a dependent personality disorder, depressive personality disorder. Okay, so those are 2 of the clusters that are not the most common. The most common clusters and the most dangerous ones is this cluster B, and it includes a narcissistic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder, and right. And now I can't remember what the other ones are. But narcissistic and borderline are 2 of the biggies that we are liable to bump into in our lives. And and these can be very difficult people. Okay, so the narcissist is somebody who, most of the people in politics and in entertainment are either narcissists. Histrionic. That's another one where they're very histrionic, hysterical, a lot of drama. Okay, so a lot of actors are histrionic. A lot of actors and actresses are borderline narcissistic. A lot of people in government and business are very narcissistic. The case could be made that Trump is narcissistic. The standard in psychiatry is not to, psychiatrists should not diagnose somebody based upon what they read and see, but they actually have to do a psychological evaluation to make the diagnosis. And sometimes, oftentimes, personality disorders take many sessions to really nail it down and be sure that's what you're dealing with, because a lot of things can look like them. But in general, people believe, and it's probably true, that, for example, Donald Trump could be a narcissist, and so could a variety of people out there. Alex Baldwin, I'm pretty sure, is a narcissist. That's what's interesting too about some of the most vocal people coming out against Trump are very much like him. They may not necessarily be like him in the ideology, but they're like him. They are like him in their temperament, and behaviors. So narcissistic people lack empathy in general. They use people as objects. People are objects to them. They use people. If people are convenient and they need them, then they're there. When they no longer become valuable to them, that they are discarded. So there's sort of a lack of empathy. There is there's this whole thing where you're an object to them. You're not a person. And they have ironically, they can have a very big ego, but oftentimes the very big ego is kind of a compensation for very low self-esteem and insecurity and fear. So this huge bravado, this huge egocentric, very defensive, very angry, very large and powerful. That's how these people behave. They do tend to be bullies. They do tend to never admit that they're wrong. They make everybody else wrong, and they don't take responsibility. Borderline personality disorder is more common. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure about this at all, quite frankly. But it's possible that narcissism may be more prevalent in men, and borderline personality disorder may be more prevalent in women. Borderline personality. These people are extremely difficult. I'm thinking of the film of Fatal Attraction, I think, where the woman was stalking Michael Douglas, I think she was borderline. I'm pretty sure she was borderline and personality disorder, and these people are very difficult. They can, for example, flip on a dime. 1 second you're the greatest since white bread. You're fantastic, you're wonderful, you're the best husband, you're the best father, you're the best friend, you're the best this, you're the best that. 10 minutes later, if you say or do something odd or look at them funny, you stink, you're worthless. So they have this all or nothing thing, this black or white thing, like you're great or you're worthless. Or they'll say to you, you always do this, or you never do this. And it's not true. It's usually, you may oftentimes do or don't do something, but it's not always. But they take this extreme position, and then they react to the extreme position with tremendous amount of anger and rage. So they can demonize and over idealize, and they can do a black or white thing, all or nothing. They have very few shades of gray, so to speak. Their moods can flip. It all depends upon the external world. If the external world says they're great, they're happy. If the external world says they suck, they may get angry, or they may get depressed, or they may get anxious. But a lot of times they are affected and manipulated by the external world. Things happen to them, and then they react to them, as opposed to having a central locus of self-esteem. Like, I'm okay whether people applaud or boo. I know who I am. I'm okay with who I am, and I can deal with people applauding or booing. I don't go too far up and get grandiose, and I don't go too far down feeling really bad about myself. So the borderline personality person is extremely. They can get extremely defensive. They can get full of rage, and oftentimes there can be like with many of the personality disorders a more of a predisposition towards alcohol and substance abuse. And oftentimes people with borderline personality disorders have other issues, eating disorders and self injury, cutting on themselves. It's a very, very difficult and sad disorder, and it's very difficult to deal with these people. But if you can have the compassion, and if you can have the empathy, and if you have the tolerance and the patience, uh, it can go a long way. Okay, so that was just a rough overview. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Peace be with you. See you next time.